Let no man look up to the sky with hope. Let no joyful voice be heard, and cuss the day by we who ready to wake the Kraken. Welcome back to the party package. Soon to be named something else, but today we're going over the Seattle Kraken's season preview. That was getting annoying. So, last time I covered the Sharks, a terrible team. This time we're covering a team that was terrible last year, but I personally think is going to make a big jump this season. Now, of course, we've got the Kraken, the new team, the expansion team from last year. Their first season was last year. They finished in third to last. Yeah, third to last. They finished third to last in the league. Not very good, especially not what Golden Knights did in their first year. So we've got a team here that didn't have had better options in their draft. I think everyone saw that coming. They had better options for them to choose from. They even had like Tarasenko. Of course, his contract was ending, but they had options to choose from. They went with some very bad picks, but I think it's all going to work out. Maybe not completely in their favor, but I think they're going to be way better this season, and already you might be seeing something weird on the board, which I thought was weird, but I went with it. So I get my lines from Cap Friendly. It's just simple. Then I don't have to worry about trying to put the lines together. I would, but I think people wouldn't like what I do with them. Cap Friendly, if I go there, everyone can just be like, okay, whatever. So, Maddie Veneers, drafted second overall last year. And I think, along with them, what they have him listed as would be perfect to go on that top line. I think he showed in the 10 games he played last year, he got 9 points in 10 games. That's pretty good for a guy playing his first year. He's a tall guy as well. I think he was 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", something. He was bigger than I thought he was going to be. And 9 points in 10 games is pretty good. And then you've got Schwartz and Eberle, guys that not very good, but they added Andre Burakovsky and Oliver Bjorkstrand. That's two pretty solid pickups, I would say, for them in that offseason. I think that might punch them a little bit through. So, my question going into this one, my question that I pose to myself in these videos every time is, were the additions they added in the offseason and in drafts going to be good enough to push them over the edge into a playoff spot? Is this going to be good enough? Well, first, let's talk about the good before the bad. Of course, I already said Veneers is going to be added. Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky, not listed by Cap Friendly, which I think is ridiculous, is number 4 draft pick, the guy that should have gotten first overall, second overall, third overall, goes all the way to 4th. Shane Wright, the guy that's been talked about for the last 3 years going first overall, goes all the way to 4th. And the Kraken get to pick him up, and he is going to be a part of this team with Maddie Veneers. And that tandem right there, that could be like the big duo of the league. That could be like the Malkin and Crosby, like the two centers of the league. Well, they don't really play on the same line. They play on the same team, and they basically have 2 top lines in their first 2 lines there. I think that was a huge steal for them. I mean, if they didn't pick him up, then obviously, I don't know. That was weird. But they're lucky that they get Shane Wright, and I think this team is going to be not spectacular because this season at least, but I have a good feeling about Wright, Veneers, Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand. I think Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky are 2 not really underrated guys, but 2 not talked about enough guys. And then Eberle, I feel like, is okay. Jaden Schwartz is kind of whatever. Jared McCann, I mean, 59 points is not the worst, but not really a guy that I wouldn't put my money into just myself. But you've got 30 points guys all the way to the 3rd line. You got some young talent in Geeky. Like, you've got some solid picks all the way through offense. You've got some okay defense. Is not spectacular, but it is a big defense. One thing I noticed after looking at this team, at least defensively, is that this is one of the biggest defense, physically wise, I've seen doing these videos. They got, I mean, of course, already Jamie Alexiak, 6'7", but you've also got like Susie and Borgen and Larson. Like these guys are like 6'3" to 6'4", all of them. Schultz isn't as tall, but he's still, I think, 6'2". Vince Dunn, I think, is also 6'2", maybe, but they have a big defense. This is a physical, hard-hitting defense that teams are not going to want. They're not going to take risks with, They're not going to try to go in and do something stupid because they might get absolutely destroyed by a guy like Jamie Alexiak. Being a hockey player myself for my time, I definitely understand the feeling of seeing that giant guy. You might not want to try to make a silly move because that guy could literally knock the wind all out of you. So that is, I mean, I know NHL players don't think the same way, but you know what I'm trying to say. These guys are hard. These guys are going to be physical, and they're not going to be able to make stupid plays around them because they're going to be able to just stiff-arm them into the boards or something. Now, the bad side of this is that their goaltending, personally for me, I'm not 100% buy-in to their goaltending. I have never been a big fan of Grubauer. I thought he was a fraud in Colorado, and I thought he just got lucky playing behind a really good team, and he showed up like goaltenders do when they're put under pressure. But I think he wasn't. I feel like he showed his true colors in Seattle this year, showing that he's really not a superstar goaltender, and he was just good at making saves when his super stacked team gave up a couple chances. He was there to save a couple times. He showed this year that he's not all that. And Drieger, I never really bought into him either in Florida, and I think once again he showed it here in Seattle. And, I mean, they got Martin Jones, so, Martin Jones, that could be the best goalie in the world. So, I'm very conflicted on the way I think about this team. Because, to me, looking at their offense, Schwartz, Veneers, Eberle, if you slide in Shane Wright somewhere, McCann, Gord, Burakovsky, Bjorkstrand, Wenberg, Tanev, just these guys, for me, on paper, it's like, okay, I can see this team being somewhat successful, but my problem is that there's no flash, or I guess there's really no threat to this team. But I think that could be solved to how I keep saying Veneers and Shane Wright and Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand. I feel like these guys could add that potency to this team. I think last year they just didn't have, because they got some guys getting points like Gord and McCann, but they're not really, these are not guys that are really causing a threat to the other team. They have to grind their way to scoring a goal. But I think with Veneers and Shane Wright, they might finally add that killer threat to this lineup to really pose especially, let's say Shane Wright goes between McCann and Burakovsky, or let's say Bjorkstrand and Burakovsky. I mean, Shane Wright feeding Burakovsky, that could be a huge one right there. Feed it to him, Burakovsky rips it, or Burakovsky can pass it to Shane Wright, and he can make some sort of dangle, get through, and score. I can see this team doing well. This is a very well-rounded team, but they just don't have that killer instinct. And my problem with the Sharks in the last video is that they didn't really have anything to build on. And I know they have, like, Hurdlemeyer and Couture. That's a start, but can't really build on top of those guys. I feel like you need to have a good base. And I think this team has set a good base for themselves in the expansion draft, but they needed to add on top of it. The Sharks are falling, and they have a couple pillars. But this team had a good, solid foundation, and they just needed guys to put on top of it to be able to start going up. And I think that they did a good job of that. Now they add Veneers, they add Shane Wright, they add a decent enough player in Burakovsky. I think that this could be a team that can push their ways to a playoff spot, especially in the Pacific Division. But at the same time, the Pacific could be the hard one now this year, because you got Edmonton, who seems to be probably actually finally getting into their prime. You've got the Golden Knights, who, if they're healthy all year, could probably make it to a playoff spot. And then after that, I mean, you got a Huberdeau with the Flames now. You've got the Canucks, who are interesting. You got the Ducks. You got the Kings. So there's a lot of question marks in the Pacific, where they're not the strongest division at all. They're probably the weakest overall. But at the same time, they got some teams working their way up that could be heavy threats this year. And I could totally see the Kraken being better than, like, the Kings, being better than the Ducks. Could they be better than the Canucks? Can they be better than the Knights? I think maybe, and I think maybe enough to get a wild card spot at least. So I think they make it to the playoffs this year. I think this could be the year as long as Veneers and Wright make the team. If they don't, then I'd say no way. This team doesn't make it. But I think if Veneers shows that he has that skill like he did in that 10 games he played, and Wright can break that into the lineup, then I can totally see this team making it to the playoffs. First round exit, though, I don't think they get past the first round. I think they get like the 4th seed spot, play against a division leader, and then they get knocked out. So that's really my opinion on this Seattle Kraken team. Just kind of interesting all around. They got a good foundation. Now they just got to build on top of it. I'd say you need to try to move out Schwartz, or at least replace Schwartz with a better player, which is like a Bjorkstrand, but then you got a old guy in the back. So I don't really know. There's a lot of question marks still to this team where things could completely fall apart as well. But that's really all I have to say about the Seattle Kraken. So please pick up your free subscription down below by hitting that red subscribe button. If you like this video, please leave a like, not a dislike. You can go down below to the comment section. Leave any suggestions, reviews, comment, concerns, or any sorts of rants, tangents, and opinions you'd like to leave down below. And do you think the Seattle Kraken make it to the playoffs this year? Are they still going to be outside, but maybe next year? So thank you for watching. Till next time, I've been Owen. Too sweet, and ta-ta for now.